Hey, so as I continue my pivot, I'm branching out and expanding my trying to expand my reach and gather as many different walks of life as possible. This is just another shining example of that walk. This one took about 2.5 months to come to fruition. I'm so proud of this. I hope you guys enjoy it. This is Starheal. She is basically one of the top dogs, if not the top dog in astrology, and she's at the forefront. And what she talks about in this interview, I take to heart. I took notes, um, and I hope you will too as well. So I present to you guys Amy, aka Star Hill. Hope you guys enjoy. I want to know. Tell me as much as little as you feel comfortable with, as far as your journey into astrology. How did you get on that path? What led you? What sparked the intuition, the inclination to get on that path?
Well, it was actually very accidental. When I started learning astrology, I didn't believe in it. And what got me starting to learn astrology was I think I was having an issue with a guy at the time, and I kind of wanted some answers and to figure out where it was going. And I looked on the internet, and I'd always kind of been interested in astrology. I always read Susan Miller's horoscope. She's a really popular astrologer. Um, and so I was looking at all these pages and just like, wow, this is kind of a lot of money. I don't know if this is real or not. So I was a little skeptical. Well, I majored in psychology, so I'm really, already kind of interested in human behavior and learning about things like that. And I was like, this seems really interesting. Let me try to teach myself.
Okay.
And so I just started reading it, and when I started reading it, it was like every day after that, I was just like immersed in astrology like all day. I worked at a job that I really hated, and it was a 9 to 5, 8 to 5 actually, and I could get my work done really quickly. So I would do that and spend the rest of the day like Googling astrology stuff, looking at social media posts, and just learning astrology, looking at charts and things like that. And eventually I came to the conclusion that astrology is real. I mean,
Mm.
it's real. And so after that, I was just really all in and wanted to get a social media account and just really to share what I knew to others because of how amazing it was to me.
So, out of all the people that I know that are in the occult sciences, normally it's either bloodline or they had family prior and they kind of were initiated into it. So you just kind of just lucked up into it.
Yeah, so my family, I was raised Christian. I
Okay.
went to church every Sunday until I was 18 to a Baptist church. So I was raised Christian and to think that astrology was evil,
Right.
basically. I mean, they weren't really preaching that, but that's what it says in the Bible. Like if I'd ask someone at church, they'd be like, no, don't do that. So yeah, I mean, I actually had to hide it for a little bit because I was in North Carolina and I didn't want people to think I was like a witch or like, weird. So I would keep it to myself. People would ask what I did, and I would just say on the side, and I would just say, oh, I'm just do counseling or something like that because I have a master's in counseling. But yeah, it was very accidental. Don't have any family members that are in it. They're very supportive of me now, even though they don't believe in it.
Hmm.
But yeah, totally just I fell into it. It just came to me. Really, really crazy.
So, what aspects do most people tend not to believe in? Is it the whole belief system, or they don't believe stars aligning? Is that the major pushback you get, or that they scratch their heads like that doesn't make sense to me?
Yeah, I just think that society has told people, like made astrology seem not so serious. And
Mhm.
the people kind of have the view that it's just like a pseudoscience, entertainment, not real. But yeah, I just get pushed back because people are like, it's not a science, you can't prove it. How can a transit apply to everyone on the earth at the same time type of thing? So I get questions like that, and then questions about, well, isn't the calendar changed or haven't the constellations moved? And just that's the kind of feedback I get. But yeah.
So at what point did you say, okay, this is what I want to do moving forward the rest of my life? I don't see anything else. Like when was that point for you?
I would say when I started really like started coming together, astrology started to coming together for me, and I realized that I could, do this. And I had a mentor that also encouraged me, but it wasn't until COVID that I was started doing it full time because I was kind of forced into that role because the job I was working at kind of shut down because I worked at a hospital as a in a anyway, we can get into that later. But
Okay.
yes. Can you repeat your question? I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. When did you decide this was going to be like your life's passion?
Oh
Like
yeah.
this is, yeah.
I guess as soon as I kind of started the Twitter account, I knew I wanted to at least have like a community, but I never thought that it would grow really as big as it did. And I never thought that I would actually be able to be an astrologer, even though I was like, oh, how cool would that be to be an astrologer all the time or, do that full time. I was like, how am I going to get from A to B? But I did want that. Yeah.
Okay, so this may sound like a redundant question. Did you do your own chart to confirm if your life's decisions are guiding you on the right path?
So actually, it's really funny. I did end up getting a reading from an astrologer and then another astrologer that I found on social media who I trusted. And both of them gave me guidance. The first one was when I really didn't know anything about astrology. And she was like, you're having your Saturn return and I see you working for yourself. And I was like, what? This is crazy. Like, I'm like, how am I going to work for myself? I have no business ideas. And then I had an astrologer tell me that when I was kind of learning astrology, that I could be a good astrologer because I had placements in my chart. So I did have that encouragement. And then learning as I see the placements in my chart for astrology. And I can see those in other people's charts too.
Okay, so how much does your psychological schooling, the master's degree, play into you being able to assess people's chart? Because this is something everybody just can't do. You can teach them all the same, but the success rate wouldn't be, it's not like you can take a class course per se and everybody be great astrologers. So how much of that schooling played or plays into your able to discern when it comes to people's readings and charts?
So I would say it has no bearing on my chart reading, like being a psychology major. However, learning that those like mental health disorders and that type of thing. I mean, in some ways it kind of it blends together, but as far as astrology, in my opinion, is way ahead of where psychology is. Like I think you can get in one astrology session what might take 2 years in a therapy session. But
Really?
yeah, I do. I think that you can get really to the core of like, this is how you're built and this is how you're always going to be built. But there are things you can do to augment those things. But back to what we were saying, I use my master's in social work degree mostly how I talk to people,
Okay.
Establishing rapport with them, making them feel comfortable, not judged, accepting them as they are, knowing how to handle a situation where someone may feel suicidal, which I've had people tell me, like, I've thought about killing myself, like very serious kind of situations that I feel competent that I can like handle, in a positive way or the right way. If I didn't have that, I would feel a little uncomfortable playing kind of that role.
Do you find yourself having to differentiate astrology versus astronomy? Do you get a lot of those questions or people get it kind of confused as to what the difference is, or do they not just understand the differences at all?
No, they don't really understand the differences at all, really. I never have too many people ask me about astronomy and astrology, except when they ask me about the Gregorian calendar and how like the dates are switched. I don't even know much about that. All I know is astrology works. I've seen it like every day. I've seen it in everyone's life. I don't know. I mean, I did pass a test on like technicality, so I did learn it at one time. But there's so much technical stuff that goes into astrology, really. But and astronomy is part of that. But no, people don't usually ask me too much about astronomy, which is
Okay,
good.
awesome. Do you think the average person should have a personal astrologer, or at some point or in their lives?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think that having a personal astrologer is a benefit. I don't think, people go to therapists once every 2 weeks or once a week. You can see an astrologer once a year and
Okay.
have a good, idea of like challenges that may come, good positive things that may come, like more specifically what they can be and the time frames that it will happen. So if you know like June's going to be turbulent, you're already a little prepared. And I tell people I could be wrong. I don't want to put an idea in someone's head that it comes true because I said it.
Mhm.
I just say, just keep in mind, like be flexible, that sort of thing. Usually it's true. That's how I would answer that question.
Okay, two-parter. Your success rate. Um, your success rate. Okay, and then was there ever a time where you questioned, "Am I doing this right?" Or was there ever a question where or a time when you received a bunch of doubt, possible backlash? You had a couple wrong readings here and there, and you said, "You know what? Maybe this is not for me." Or did it? Do you ever have that issue at all?
Actually, I had a lot of self doubts when I started, and I was really worried I wasn't doing it right. And it was when I was unsure if I was giving people the right information. But then I started getting feedback, and people were like, "Wow, this was right." Like I remember one of the first things I told somebody, or the first person's chart I ever looked at was someone who wanted to know if their wife was going to be able to have kids. And I looked at both of their charts and I was like, yes, it's going to happen. Just give it time, like next year or whatever. And they got back with me and they were like, you were right. This is amazing. And I was like, wow. And then I just started slowly doing other people's charts. And I've always gotten, I would say 95% of my feedback has been really positive.
Really?
I
Okay.
get off the phone with someone, usually they say, this has been really affirming, uplifting, relieving, comforting, and I will be in touch with you again at some point to book another reading. So I
Mhm.
feel like, my readings are positive. But like I said, I had a lot of self doubt. And before, it's interesting, I started talking on the phone with people. I did, which was stupid. I did readings over text because I was scared to get on the phone with people.
Okay.
Like I was scared to get on the phone and be like, or not know or feel just, I don't know. I had a fear of that. And one day I was just like, this is not the best way to do these readings. Like you have to stop being, a little baby about this. Like
Mhm.
put your big girl pants on and get on the phone. And ever since I did that, it's been like I love talking on the phone.
Okay.
Like I wouldn't go back. You know what I mean? So there were issues with my readings that could have been better, but it was mostly because I doubted myself in the way I, myself as an astrologer. But I never got really bad feedback from,
Okay.
yeah.
Was there ever a time you had a reading and you were like, "This is it. I'm right," and it was flat out wrong? Has that?
Yeah, yeah. I've had people tell me that what I said happened didn't happen before. Um, I could be wrong more times than I know. People just don't tell me when I'm wrong.
Okay.
And I know I'm not right about everything. I mean, no one can be like, I know that, but yeah, people have told me I'm wrong, and I'll just say, well, I looked at your chart, the best I could. I told you, you know, I gave you the best reading I could. I'm sorry it didn't happen. But I've only gotten a handful of those, or maybe, 2 handfuls. I don't know. But usually people don't tell me if I'm wrong. If they did, that would help give me more feedback. But yeah.
Well, how often would you get a response, but like, you know what, the timing was off, but it happened? Maybe sometimes I feel that customers want it right now, and they don't have the patience to wait. So has that ever happened to you? Like, okay, hey, you know what? You said this was going to happen. It took a little longer. I was impatient, but you were right. Do you get that a lot as well, or no?
Yeah, that happens sometimes especially because the transits, usually there'll be 3 passes because a planet goes direct, retrograde, and then direct again. So sometimes the dates, there will be 3 different time frames. Sometimes I'll get the time frame wrong. So yeah, that will be I'll say it might happen sooner and it happens later.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm not trying to give the impression that I'm like omnipotent, some like crazy, always right guru. Definitely not. But I have done a lot of charts, and that makes you doing more, makes you better. So I think I'm a better astrologer than when I started, but I'm definitely wrong, sometimes.
How has your path in astrology, how has it changed your perception or belief system in religion? Or do you not even consider yourself religious at this point?
Oh, that's a really good question. I do consider myself, I don't consider myself necessarily organized religion.
Right.
I grew up Christian. I'll always have that in my background. I was baptized. So I'll always be like, my religion is Christianity. I'll always kind of, probably be aligned with that. But I'm much more, I don't go to church or that sort of thing, but I'm much more spiritual in that when I went to church, I would be there like, okay, this sounds like heaven is great, but how do I know I'm really going there?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can have faith, but I don't know for sure that I don't just go in the dirt, like, and with astrology, because it's so organized and accurate and timed so just precisely, I definitely know, well, to me, there is a higher power, intelligence, God, that sort of thing at work. Like, we're not just here to be here. We're here for a purpose. I know that, and I believe that. And I also believe that when we die, we don't just go in the dirt. We go back to where, we came from, wherever that is. But I believe that there's a higher power. We're all here for a reason. So essentially, astrology made me more religious, more believe in God, more spiritual, more believe in karma, and all of that sort of thing, which
Okay.
is interesting.
Okay, cool. So has this opened the door for you to look into other occultic sciences at all? Or you just pretty much, you're just astrology, this is my lane, everybody else, y'all do what y'all do, but this is what I do?
I love tarot.
Okay.
I love tarot. I do it for myself. Not a lot, but a few times a year, I would say. I would do it for other people, like friends, but I'm not a tarot reader. Like, I don't do the spreads that people do. What I do is I'll call on my spirit guides, ancestors, and angels. Think about a question, really, like, clear my mind, think about a question, shuffle the deck, and then I'll turn a card over. And then read the message that card has, and then maybe I'll turn another card over for a clarifying card. And it is so crazy how accurate the tarot is. That's why I don't use it that often, because I don't want to know. Sometimes I just want to be like, this relationship feels good. Like, I don't want to know if it's gonna.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Let me just pretend like everything's not, because I don't want to, because it's so accurate, But I love tarot. And yeah, I would say that's maybe the only other occult like activity I'm into. I'm not a big believer. Well, I believe in psychics and mediums. I believe in that.
Okay.
I just believe most of the people who say they're psychics and mediums are not psychics and mediums.
Gotcha.
They're just like, oh, you know, saying things, or those people that say you have you're cursed. Let me, you know, save you for $300. Like that sort of thing, I like to stay away from.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's dive into the feminine aspect of it. My experience is I see more female practitioners of like the softer sciences, tarot readings, psychic mediums, even astrologers. For what I've gathered, are mainly women. Have you noticed that, or is that just a natural thing for women to be guided, or that's just divine femininity to kind of go into those routes?
Yeah, I think definitely women are the biggest client base I have. I do have men, but I would say it's maybe 70-30. 70 women, 70% women, 30% men. I think a big reason it's like that is because of just society and how I guess astrology is seen as something that's more of a girl thing and more like self-help thing, and men just I think it's girly just because the way it's been presented in society kind of. But once you get into it, you realize it doesn't have, you know, it's a spiritual practice. But for some reason, yeah, men tend to be less inclined to delve into astrology.
Okay. Let's take all the wealthy, I mean wealth, I mean the uber elite men, the one percenters of the world. I know they use soothsayers, astrologists, whatever the case may be. I know they're mainly women. Do you agree with that? A man should have a woman as in his right ear, like, hey, it's not a good time. The stars and the planets, and you might want to back off of this. Or to you, is this whoever can fill the job?
Oh, whoever can fill the job. The astrologer I had, the second one I got the reading from, was a man.
Okay.
My mentor was a man.
Okay.
And I was going to get another astrology reading. I never did, but he was a man. Okay. I've actually gotten the two astrology. Yeah. So most of my astrology like readings, I've been wanted them for men for whatever reason or another, probably because I liked their work and thought they were, you know, competent and really smart. But yeah, I think whoever can feel do the work. I don't think it matters if you're a man or a woman. I think both sexes can be equally as good at astrology or as being an astrologer.
Is this a practice you think should be taught in the family, in homes to a certain extent? Or do you think okay, and why so?
Because it's so life-changing, and it helps you not only gain awareness of yourself and how you're built, but also life, and that bad times don't last forever. You know, things will change. It gives you hope. I mean, astrology is in every part of life. So I feel like people should start learning it because it would change their life. It literally is a life-changing. Once you understand it's real and see how it works, it's literally life-changing.
So you believe the average person could learn astrology and apply it, and basically, I don't want to call it a hack or a cheat code to a certain extent, but kind of make the life a little less bumpy per se? Or do I have it wrong?
I feel like everyone has the potential to learn at least some basic astrology to the point where if they have something, they can at least know where to go look it up. Not like they know everything, but know, okay, this is what a transit means, or this is what a full moon means. I might not know what Mercury square Pluto means, but I know I can go look it up, and that's what I have, and then I can see what kind of energy is around that. But yeah, I think knowing like what the planets mean, which there's only 8. So, or I don't, yeah, 8 or 9 planets. So, I mean, it's not that hard. There's only 12 zodiac signs. So, I mean, once you kind of memorize like just those basic things, it kind of comes together a little easier where you can at least have an idea of what's going on. And if you don't, go to another resource to kind of figure it out more.
Okay. How have you been received in the astrology community per se?
Well, at first, I really loved the astrology community. I was really active in it. I felt like the astrology community was like a family of mine in a way. And I really enjoyed, like I said, interacting with people and reading their content. I had a list. I only looked at astrology people when I went on Twitter. But then, some things started happening with me getting canceled for various reasons. And it seemed like the astrology community kind of turned their back on me. Some, I think, did it because if they didn't, people would have come at them. So now I don't have the best relationship with the astrology community because of that, but I wish it were different. I miss interacting with people, but that's just kind of the way it has played out.
Okay.
Ever since I got to a certain level, it started playing out that way.
So I would think it was jealousy because I caught like some of the heat that you got because you did somebody's chart, and it's totally up to you if you want to get into it or not. But you did a political figures chart, and I was like, oh, they're on her neck. I was like, oh Lord, oh Lord. It just seems it was either jealousy or people's political ideologies kind of interfered with what the charts were telling you. Did you feel some of that, or is that what you mainly attributed it to?
Yeah, well, I attribute it to really kind of two people that triggered all of this. But what a lot of times would happen, I would make a tweet, and other astrologers would kind of do the same thing, but wouldn't get the backlash. But I would make a tweet, and then I would get called like, you're being a victim blamer, which was like, I'm just telling you what's in the chart. I'm just saying Sweetie has Venus square Pluto, and sometimes that can show domestic violence. I'm not saying that she deserved it. I'm just reading a chart, or saying that Donald Trump is going to win the election. That doesn't mean I want Donald Trump to win the election. I'm just telling you what I see in the chart.
Okay.
So I definitely get backlash from that and people getting mad. And then I think another thing people get mad about, which I really don't understand. To me, it's not a big deal. But when people die and I do post their charts, and a lot of times I'll just say like the transits they have or what their sun, moon, and rising was, or this, that, and the other. It's never done in like a disrespectful way.
Mm-hmm.
But I found like certain people I do triggering. Other people I do maybe not so much.
Okay.
But yeah, definitely talking about certain charts or certain people's charts has gotten me into some hot water, I would say. And it's been without me. I mean, obviously I didn't have any bad intentions. I wouldn't have wanted to be in the position of getting piled on, by them. So yeah.
In the astrology community, is there a racial component? Have you faced backlash, because of the way you look or your ethnicity? I ask because the face of the sciences, sometimes it's mainly melanated people, and there's times when it's just European based, and then it kind of goes back and forth depending on which time frame you're in. Have you ever got criticism just because based off your look they didn't give you a chance to see if you knew what you were talking about?
No, at first, like it didn't seem like race mattered at all. Like I had people from all races that were coming to me, and I was, friendly with Black astrologers and male astrologers and gay astrologers, like, everyone. But then, for some reason, I think this was started by one of the people that was behind a lot of this. She had called me racist, which was really hurtful because I'm not. And so that wasn't a good thing. And every time I get piled on the internet, it's always like white girl, white. And it's like every comment or like criticism, it's just like, oh, that white girl, that white bitch, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess in that way there's been a racial component. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I guess, if you can find something to pick a bone about, that would be the easy way in.
And just to be honest, just to be really honest, it felt like when I would do Black people's charts, I would get more backlash than if I did a white person's chart.
Interesting. Okay.
And I think people were saying things like, "Oh, you're making money off this," and it was like, "No, I'm not making money. I'm just like teaching."
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I learned, was through looking at events and charts and seeing like what was going on at different times, and that's the way you learn. And that was my whole intention, not to make money off anybody's
Right.
bad situation or good situation.
Well, let me ask you: can two astrologers read the same chart and come with two different readings?
Yes,
Okay.
but um they shouldn't differ too much, because the energy is always going to be the same, and the energy when it combines is always going to be the same. But some astrologers can maybe get more specific than other ones. But if Uranus is transiting someone's midheaven, there shouldn't be any astrologer that says, "Oh, your job's not going to change at all." Like, no, your job's that, like, there's going to be a change. Now, if that astrologer knows how or when or maybe what other areas of life will be involved, I don't know.
Okay.
But they should all kind of know what energy is what. Like, that never changes. That's the same for everybody doing astrology.
Do you find yourself having to teach more of the non-believer per se through your readings, and do they gain a better understanding afterwards, or do they still be like, well, if she says so?
Well, most of the people that come to me already kind of are into astrology,
Okay.
and have at least, believe it's real, or they followed me on Twitter and seen my testimonials, and they feel safe, to come to me. But so I would say most already are believers. But once, like, a lot of times when I get a tweet that goes really viral or mainstream, I'll just, like, the non-astrology people will just start coming out, and they'll, "Oh, this is coming from an astrologer, haha," like, and really clown you for being into astrology. So there's those non-believers. But as far as people who talk to me and who just regularly tweet me and things like that, I would say they're more believers.
How has I guess the optics on astrology been over the last, let's say, decade? Has it gotten better? Are people more accepting of it now because I don't want to say it's mainstream, but people are more aware of it?
Yeah, definitely. People are much more aware of astrology, especially the younger generation.
Okay.
For some reason, I don't know. I guess it was when I was in the middle of doing everything. It just like exploded. And then one day I looked around and I was like, whoa, a lot of people are into astrology now. But yeah, and I think that's a really good thing that people are picking it up, because that was like my intention for starting my social media, was to show people like astrology is real. You should learn this. You know, my intention wasn't for everyone to think they could become an astrologer, which I think a lot of people who get into astrology think that, like, oh, I'm going to be an astrologer, which that's, I mean, I'm not saying they can't, but I just feel like just knowing a little bit isn't, you need to know, like, you need to have studied this for a long time and put a lot of hours in to, you know, tell people information. But no, it being mainstream is great, and I think it's lost a lot of its stigma.
Okay. What do you think that's due to? Is it because of the youth, social media, or just society is kind of less, a little bit more tolerant to things that are not as rigid as organized religion?
Yeah, I think it's just millennials and Gen Z being kind of, you know, the statistics show like less into organized religion than previous generations, and just wanting something different. And I think astrology is an avenue for them to, explore their spirituality, learn more about themselves and, you know, the world too.
Let me ask you, how important are the natal charts in your readings? Do you require them, or is that you just get birth date, name, and
I definitely need their birth chart.
okay.
So their birth date, preferably their time, but I can do one without the time, and the birthplace. And then a chart, their birth chart comes up, and that's what I look at. It's like a map, basically, with different symbols, and it's just like reading the symbols. And it's a symbols and math.
Mhm. Was there ever a time you did a reading for somebody and it was just so bad that you were like, I don't want to tell this person how bad it's going to be for them? Has
Yeah.
it ever? And did you still told them?
Um, like for instance, there will be people that are really into a relationship, and you can tell when people really want a relationship to continue, like they would be devastated if it didn't, type
Mhm.
of energy. And I've just seen stuff where I mean, there, it's just like, you know, Saturn's about to square your Venus. I mean, I, it might not be permanent, but I do think there's going to be a separation. I try to gently tell them, and I always say I could be wrong. Don't freak out. Like, I could be wrong, but this is just what I see based on what I've learned and seen through other charts I've done. I hate telling people bad, you know, news in that way, because I know how I would feel.
Mhm.
But I don't want to lie to the person, or just, you know, they came to me to know the truth. So I'm going to tell them the truth, but I'm going to do so in the most gentle way possible. I'm not harsh. Um, and like I say, I always say I could be wrong. Don't, you know, get this in your head. Like, just see how things play out. Be positive. So I try to, you know, make it better with things like that. But yeah, there are times when I'm like, yeah, it's kind of sucks.
Yeah. What are the pitfalls of your profession that you've experienced?
Um,
Outside of,
I would,
online backlash, but
yeah,
any,
social media has been
okay.
definitely the biggest. Other pitfalls, besides having to overcome my own like phobias, things like that. That was something that I had to get over. Um, I would say I don't feel like, I can't think of any that stand out to me
Mhm.
as pitfalls of astrology. I mean, there are things in the day to day work of it that are sometimes like mundane, or, you know, things I wish I'd done differently in the past. But as far as just doing it on a day-to-day basis, I don't, besides online, there aren't any to me.
Okay. I want to shift gears a bit.
Let me go back. Let me read
Yes.
that.
Yeah.
Maybe one pitfall is if I tell someone like information that's not right, or which, like I said, they haven't come back and told me they're really upset. No one's really done that. But I guess me not knowing if what I'm saying is actually right or not, just going by like math instead of, I'm not psychic. And then also giving people bad information they may not want to hear is definitely a pitfall too.
Well, of the ones that you, I guess, got wrong, do you ever go back and say, you know what? No. And do you go back and revisit the people's chart and be like, no, I don't care what they said. This is what's happening. They were just too ashamed to come back and tell you. Of course, we would never know. But you ever question, like, when you get it wrong, like, no, this is right?
No, I don't go back. I just believe. I was like, yeah, I was probably wrong. I don't question them at all or go back and look. I just, well, the thing is, transits can manifest in different ways.
Okay.
Energies should still be the same. So that's why I was saying two astrologers can have different readings, but the energy should still be the same. So sometimes I might get something wrong, but it's still within like the realm of what happened.
Okay. Totally. Yeah. You're pretty transparent on Twitter, and some of your life adventures are just like, I'm just like, wow, she's out here really doing it. How often are you tempted to read somebody you're dating, or do you try not to ruin?
I do. I always get their birth information pretty quickly.
Okay, and let's say hypothetically you're dating a guy and you get the information, you're like, this is gonna end bad. Do you follow through with your own advice, or you just like, you know what, I enjoyed the ride, let's have this ride?
Well, the last guy I dated, I was like, yeah, he's probably gonna cheat on me. But I was like, well, I could be wrong. I don't know for sure. Like, everything's going good now. Let's just be positive. Like I tell other people, I tell the same things to myself, I guess. And then he cheated on me. So
okay, yeah. What aspect in his chart that you saw that confirmed he would cheat, or just for any man per se, if you read a man's chart and he's married per se or whatever he's dating?
Well, there are different combinations of things, but like, for instance, if Neptune is on someone's partnership angle, their descendant, or square their Venus, I'll say, okay, like, are you deceiving, or is there some illusion around what you're doing? Or it could be your partner. Sometimes it's the relationship itself. I spoke with someone today who was in a relationship, and I was like, is there some sort of deception or secrecy going on here? And she was like, well, he's still not fully divorced, and we keep it kind of secret. So there's always that energy. So it's not like one person's deceiving the other. It could just be the relationship is secretive. So I do see that deceptive energy. Also, like a Pluto transit to someone's Venus could show maybe infidelity or secretiveness. So there are different transits and combinations of planets to look for. I do that, but there, usually I know what to go to look for that.
So do you ever feel burdened by that? Like, and for every person you would date, always running the numbers and see how this is going to turn out. Does that ever get cumbersome to a certain extent? Do you just be like, one day I'm just going to, like, you know what, whatever happens, happens. I don't want to see beforehand.
Yeah, usually that's my attitude, is whatever happens, happens.
Okay.
But I usually like to look up their chart just to see our compatibility. To be like, okay, like, do we have sun, moon? Usually just knowing their birth date, I can know all their sun aspects to me. But yeah, sometimes I don't know. I think I'd rather know. Well, but I know red flags in charts. I'll see a chart and I'll say, ooh, that guy has Venus opposite Uranus and Pluto. That could be some cheating there. Some like sudden disruptions or breakaways or need for a lot of freedom, and I'll see these red flags, but it's like hard to say if the person, especially if they're older, have they worked through those issues, or are they still living that aspect out in a more chaotic way, or have they evolved to live it out in a more productive way? So in that regard, you never really can tell how someone is living their chart.
Okay. But does that prevent you from fully jumping into a relationship? Are you on guard because you read his chart and was like, and he might, let me go and dial it back a bit and not give him all of me, per se?
I'm delusional.
Okay.
I like to stay in a little delusional bubble.
Okay.
And pretend that it's gonna be okay. Like if I see two aspects that were compatibility, I'm like, yes, let's do this. But I mean, I do keep things. No, seriously, I do keep things in the back of my head, and if I like see that coming up,
mm-hmm.
I know right away, like this is what's happening. But I've never canceled anyone because of their chart. Let's just say that.
Okay. Does that knowing beforehand kind of help you deal with the aftermath if it goes left? Because, some people are really extreme in their reactions and they go over the top. Does that kind of, well, you know what? I did see it coming, so I really can't spaz out like I want to. I'm not going to bust out his windows and flatten the tires, per se.
Yeah, I mean, you can see someone's anger level or their revenge level or things like that in the chart. So, but yeah, I usually don't worry about that too much.
Okay. Where do you think you would be without astrology had you not stumbled into it?
Oh God, I don't even want to think about.
Do you think your life would be that bad off without it, per se?
Yeah.
Wow, really?
Yeah, because I don't know what else I would be doing that would make me happy.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I could do counseling, like, with, people and like therapy type stuff, but that doesn't really get me as excited as astrology does. Like,
okay.
Astrology is my passion, Also, I would be a lot more lost and wondering why can't I get a good, like, a relationship? Oh, okay, I have Venus, Square, Mars, Saturn, Pluto,
mm-hmm.
the South Node.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be somebody that maybe has more difficulty. So,
gotcha.
like, understand myself better, understand what things are maybe harder for me because I have a difficult chart. So in that regard, it's helpful. But yeah, I hate to know where I would be without astrology. Like, I can't fathom that.
Any family members that come to you on the side be like, hey, read this for me, even though they're hardcore Christians, or you don't experience that at all?
No, but I know my family's. I don't look at my family's charts ever because I don't want to worry. That would worry me because I would be like, oh no, like they're having this or that. And I would, because it's my own family, I would just be like nervous. So I don't look at their charts. I look at close friends that a lot of them don't really believe in astrology. They're just like, well, what does that mean? Or like, okay. And, but when something comes up, they'll be like, Amy, can you look at my chart? Can you tell me? And I'll be like, yeah. And I'll give them a free reading basically. And I'm like, y'all really don't just realize what the information I just gave you here, because they take it for granted and they don't really understand the power of astrology.
Okay.
My parents have never asked me any astrology questions. But yeah, it's really funny because I hid it from them for the longest time. And then when they, this is kind of going off topic a little bit, but when they found out, they were kind of upset. But then I just kept doing it. And when I started making money, all of a sudden, oh, all right, like, good job. Let's
right.
your LLC. All right, let me help you with your finances. We'll get this tax. We'll get this accountant. I'm like, okay, you know what I mean?
As most parents are, yes, yes.
That's how it started. It was first, it was like, ooh, some shameful secret. But then when I started doing like that being my job and I started was being more successful, they jumped right on board. So
Hmm.
yeah.
Let me ask you, do you see yourself ever maybe stepping aside from astrology and get into anything else? Or this is until you close your eyes, this is what you're going to do for the next 50 years of your life?
I think I'm always going to want to be involved in something that is astrology related,
Okay.
whether I do readings for the rest of my life or do social media for the rest of my life. I guess social media you kind of have to do in a way
Mhm.
just to be out there. But I would rather move into, I love doing readings one on one,
Okay.
but I like also doing things more for mass groups of people, like teaching classes. That's why I like social media, because it goes out to a wider audience. And that's very Aquarian too, like sharing your knowledge, spreading it to the community. So, and I'm an Aquarius. So, in that way, I could see myself doing maybe something along those lines.
Mhm.
Also really thought about doing some sort of spiritual entrepreneurship workshop or series about people who want to go into business for spirituality but maybe don't know the steps to get there.
Okay.
um, and also consulting. I'm going to be consulting for an app that's coming out
Nice.
relatively
Nice.
soon, and I'm gonna be helping with the astrology piece of the app. So
Congrats.
stuff
Awesome.
I think would be fun. Yeah. So I would definitely branch out into other areas, but I think I always am gonna want to be an astrology girl.
Okay. If the APA was ever to incorporate bits and pieces of astrology, would you go back to that profession?
Yeah, I would go back to help bridge the gap, I think, and help maybe I think there would need to be people who were astrologers that would need to kind of go in and maybe I don't know teach the practitioners how they go together.
Hmm.
So in that way I would, but I like what working for myself and having my own thing. I
Do
mean,
you?
I work for myself there, but I like what I'm doing now.
Gotcha. Well, do you ever see a time when those two worlds would ever find a common ground? Because
Yeah,
now I'm seeing more college courses teach other sciences, otherworldly sciences, what they call it, as not electives, but um, oh, not part of the course curriculum, but they have the option to go in if you want to study under, learn what Madame Blavatsky did or Pascal Beverly Randolph, those those teachers. Do you ever see that bridge ever being established at some point?
between psychology and astrology.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. It will be at some point established because it's so very similar. Um, Everything that astrology is basically above psychology,
Okay,
and that everything in psychology can be interpreted on an astrological level, if that makes sense.
okay.
So if a psychologist is treating someone for OCD,
Hmm.
and they see in their birth chart, you have Mercury conjunct Pluto. Now, that's an aspect that's going to show someone who gets more fixated on thinking, who's more obsessive, who might have more like darker thoughts. But obsessiveness is a Pluto thing. Mercury is your mind.
Okay,
So knowing that, okay, this person, one, probably that's accurate what they're saying, and two, let's see how we can work with that based on how you're built.
okay.
You know what I mean? And sometimes medication might be required. I don't know about all that. I think that also has a role with astrology, like your brain chemicals somehow, and the planetary transits, I think somehow worked together.
Hmm.
Um, like depression, like there are transits that can show being more depressed.
Okay.
being happy. There are transits that can show that. So I think somehow your brain chemistry and your birth chart are somehow like related.
Yeah. Okay. Now I'm gonna throw you a curveball. Now I'm not sure how well versed you are in the Salem witch trials and the history of it, but it seemed to me, and now that I've done my research, and my conclusion is, it seemed to me there was a quelling of female led practitioners to a certain extent, and could have been a rise of feminism to a certain extent, and maybe those men in that time did not appreciate what the women brought as far as their gifts. Have you ever thought about the Salem witch trials in that regard, or let's say the backlash you used to get as a tarot card reader, psychic medium, or an astrologer per se?
Yeah, I feel like I didn't feel like I really had any backlash like that, but I do see that backlash on people who do more pagan or witchy type stuff.
Okay.
If I don't want to use, I guess they call themselves like witchy, so I guess that's okay. I have seen that backlash, but are people who do like magic or spells or things of that nature. But I've never done any spells on people. I've never done magic or anything like that. So in that sense, no. And then as an astrologer, being a woman, I don't think so.
Have you ever gotten somebody's birth date and just got an immediate look at their chart and you say, you know what, I don't want to do this reading?
No.
Really? Okay.
No, I've never done that.
Okay. Is there a circumstance where you wouldn't, or you're just open to read?
I'm open to read any chart. Some people say, you should get permission to read someone's partner's chart. But if someone comes to me in their relationship and they have a relationship question, I'll look up their partner's chart. I don't think there's anything wrong with me helping them, figure out their relationship if I have the tools to do so. Yeah, but I've never discriminated against anybody based on their chart. I'll look at anybody's chart.
Okay. A final question. I'm gonna let you get out of here. Based off all the readings you've done for couples and what you see online as far as relationships go, where do you see the state of man-woman relationships moving forward?
What do you mean? Sorry.
In regards to dating, marriage, things of that nature. Are you seeing, when you read the couples charts and then you see online, it's like, yeah, this is looking bad for everybody moving forward for the next 20, 30 years. These new kids trying to date, it's a wash. Do you see that at all?
No, nothing, okay. Nothing like that. No.
So you're more optimistic as far as the younger people's idea of dating, mating, marriage, things of that nature, as opposed to say older folk like Gen Xers or.
Yeah, I am. I'm more optimistic. I know that the data shows there's less marriages and less children being born and that sort of thing. I don't really know how to pick up on that astrologically.
Okay.
But there's nothing that I see astrologically that would indicate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I've had you on for an hour. I know you're on the East Coast and you are super busy. Please shout out your Twitter handle and any last words or anything you want to let the eventual people know about you and then what you do.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm Starheal, StarHeal on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And my website is starheal.com.
And any parting words for people that are a little bit hesitant to get into astrology?
I just would say don't be scared.
Okay.
When I started, I left this out actually. when I started learning about astrology, I got when I figured out like, oh my God, this is real. Like this is not, they're not, this is real. Like this shit is real. It scared me for like a week. I was not okay. I was like, because I'd read stuff about like aspects I had, I was gonna get murdered and like this, that, and the other. And I was like, oh my God, this is real and this is in my chart. And I was just freaked out. That's not the way. Don't be like that. Astrology, as I've gone on, is not scary. The worst possible scenarios aren't going to play out. There's a lot of fear mongering on social media, and astrology just shouldn't be something to be scared of. It should be something that helps you. It should be a tool that you can use to better yourself and your life.
Final question: that when you finally got it, was it a gotcha moment, or was this just a culmination of you just starting to see the patterns, and now it's like, okay, now I got it?
It was kind of built up, but there was a gotcha moment. It was over an eclipse.
Okay.
The night of the eclipse, like the craziest stuff happened at my house, and the eclipse was in Cancer, and I was just like, no, this is like too real. And then, of course, I kept observing. Aquariuses are kind of like that. They like to observe and experiment and put up little, do little experimental projects. Is this real? Look at things objectively. And I did that. And like I said, I was a skeptic going in, but I'm a believer now.
Is there ever a time, and I know this is a very base, broad, general question, is there ever a time in the year that people should not get into relationships, should not make huge financial decisions, or is that on a person by person basis?
It's a person by person basis a lot of times, but there are also collective times when just for everyone making big financial purchases or getting in relationships is not advised, such as like Venus retrograde.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
But other than that, it will be a personal basis. Like one person could be having a transit to a Neptune square their Venus, or Jupiter conjunct their Venus, or different transits about relationships more personalized to them.
Okay, I just had another question. I promise the final one. I'm gonna let you go. Should parents have their children's chart read in hopes to kind of avoid certain pitfalls here and there?
I think if the parents aren't going to yeah, I do think that's a good thing. I just don't want the parents to get too fixated on like this is how they're going to be, or get worried like, oh my God, they have addictive tendencies, they're going to be an alcoholic. Like I never want to like scare or worry anybody.
Okay.
That's probably my number one like thing I don't want to do in a astrology reading. So I wouldn't want to like frighten them in any way if I was like, oh, they're going to be very intense, or what, you know what I mean, or something like that. But I do think it's worth it overall to know what their strengths are going to be, maybe where they might need a little more help, what their overall temperament, maybe how they will best receive nurture, that sort of thing. If they're going to be more restless or more withdrawn, introverted, that sort of thing.
Gotcha. Has there ever been a time when you see two parents, either new parents or older parents, and you glossed over their charts and you're like, oh, this kid's good. This is bad. This child was born under a bad sign. I worry for this kid because of the based off the parents. No, never.
No. I just, because I never know how it's going to play out, and I'm just very optimistic and try to think the best out of the situation. That's just how I've always been.
So if you had a girlfriend, she's like, I met him, we're getting married 6 months from now, and you'd be like, what's his birth date again? And you're like, child, I don't know.
I would tell people red flags.
Okay.
And I do that in my readings.
Okay.
Well, they'll be like, I'm like, yeah, I don't think y'all are breaking up, but he does have some red flags in his chart. And these are the red flags, and this is what they mean. So yeah, I would definitely tell my friend, like, you're gonna need to watch this, he might have go through his pockets, phone type of thing.
Is there ever a time, okay, your experience that most people, when you read their chart, are pretty much true to nature based off their chart? Regardless if you see flags or not, this is pretty much the person, their personality. This is pretty much how they are. Is that a fair assessment when you read people?
Yes. That's how they are. Like, that's their blueprint of their life. And yeah, usually they are true to their signs and placements from what I hear about their life overall. Yeah.
Okay. Is there ever an instance where they could possibly change certain aspects of themselves away from the chart or outside of the chart? Or is this pretty much, no, this is you, bro. Like, this is you.
It's you, but you can do things, like say you have no water in your chart, no signs and no planets and water signs. There's nothing you can do. You're always going to lack that more sensitive, intuitive energy, but you can make up for that one by being around people who are high in water.
Okay.
Feel it that way. Also, doing things to increase your own sensitivity consciously.
Okay.
Your intuition consciously. That's, so you can augment things based on your conscious awareness. That's kind of how I see it.
That's pretty deep.
And other thing that I want to mention is, and a lot of the readings I do, people are already moving towards what they should be doing or what their chart says. They're just uncertain. But when I say, career wise, like, if you could do anything, what would you want to do? And they tell me, so often it aligns with their chart. Or if they say, I'm going to quit a job, I really want to quit my job, and Uranus is about to cross their midheaven, I'm like, yeah, it's time. Like, it's time to do something different. So, but people, I feel like, already sense the transits and are moving towards them without even knowing astrology.
Okay, I want to piggyback off what you just said. Even for you, the whole pandemic COVID thing. Now, you saw that coming to a certain extent, right? Did you see that this universal shift to whatever the case may be, pushing people to, seek what makes them happy, what they want, as opposed to just staying in a place where they're not appreciated or accepted?
Yeah. So a big reason, I think, and I didn't mention this earlier, but a big reason I think spirituality has taken off and people have been more like accepting and receptive to it is Neptune has been in Pisces since about 2012.
Okay.
And since that time, if you've noticed, that's really gotten huge. Spirituality's gotten huge. Other things too that Neptune and Pisces represents. But I feel like this big collective kind of interest in it has to do with the Neptune and Pisces. And with COVID, a lot of astrologers didn't know it was going to be COVID.
Okay.
But we knew there was going to be something big and probably not in a good way that happened around that time, because it was when Saturn was conjunct Pluto in Capricorn, which could show like having to survive in a sense. More of a darker shadow kind of transit.
Okay. I'm gonna let you go after this one for real. So walk me through your day. You wake up, you check the weather, you read the charts. How do you navigate your day?
So I wake up and usually I either have a call or I usually get on social media and do my tweets first.
Okay.
And kind of check that out. I'll have a couple of calls. Then I'll work on like some content as far as because I do a newsletter now, as far as getting the week ahead together and what I'm going to say, to put on my Instagram reels, to do all the social media stuff, or I film a TikTok. So it's pretty much split between marketing, if you want to call it that, and readings.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't really have a set schedule. I kind of flip around different things I do. I don't like just do readings in the morning. Like sometimes I'll do them at night. You know what I mean? Like it just depends on what the person's schedule is and what I'm doing. So, but yeah, every day the first thing I do is check Twitter and put my tweets out.
Social media.
That's what I've been every day for like 10 years.
Yeah. Do you do anything different on a full moon, eclipse, quarter moon, right? Blue moon, red moon? Do you alter different things, how you navigate during those phases, or no?
Yeah, well, on the new moon, I try to like set intentions, and on the full moon, I'm just aware of where things may kind of come to a head in my chart, or the house or the area of life, or if it's going to be a relationship. I usually know kind of what's probably going to happen, or at least if it's going to be positive or more negative. So yeah, but other than that, I don't do rituals or anything like that. Like I'm not super, I guess you could call it woo woo or whatever, like I'm really not at all. I'm more, and I never have been. I've never been like, oh, I love crystals, but I'm not, the typical like spiritual looking, type.
So you're not saging the rooms every 30 days or anything like that?
So yeah, but yeah.
All right, cool. Well, I could keep you here all day. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be selfish, but oh my God, thank you. I've learned so much based off this. I can't wait to get this out to the people and share, your wisdom. And so I'm gonna just do this. I'm gonna stop the recording. But one more time, shout the people out where they can find you one more time, please.
Yeah, you can find me at Starheal, STARHEAL on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And then website is starheal.com.
So for those watching in the future, please go subscribe. I'm a huge fan of this woman, and yeah, you'd be remiss not to follow her. So